Civilization 7 is fundamentally changing how combat works, ring-fencing promotions and experience behind the all-new, ultra-powerful commander units, as well as trying to fix some of the mistakes from Civilization's past, and changing how siege warfare works. Let's talk these big changes, building on that modern age gameplay reveal, of course, and the most recent Civ 7 developer diary, all about combat. And it's important to note from this that combat and military still remains very important to the game. It is still a victory condition, and of course your military conquest will also contribute towards those legacy points as you move through each of Civilization 7's 3 ages. Now, cast your mind back, if you can, to classic Civilization, where units were just able to stack onto a single tile, stacks of doom. Then cast your mind beyond Civ 4 to Civ 5, where changes were introduced. We moved to hexagons, obestigons instead of square tiles, and 1 unit per tile was also a revolutionary shift. This enabled things like terrain to be more impactful. Now flash forward to Civilization 6, where the game changes again. One of the downsides, however, to having that Civ 5 model was that now, instead of stacks of doom, it was a carpet of doom, with maps congested, full of units. Civilization 6 did allow us to merge some together, like unit escorts or joining combat units of the same type. However, some of those problems that Firaxis identified still remained. Outside of the significant change to flanking bonuses, as well as the equally pretty significant shift to siege warfare, the big focus today really are those commander units. It has to be. Newly introduced to Civilization 7, commanders have a lot of different abilities and strengths, perhaps most notably the ability to pack up nearby units into a single stack, stacking all different types of units within a single commander. Of course, now that all 3 ages of Civilization 7 have also been revealed, we know the different types of these commanders that are on offer. Age 1 introduces the Army Commander. This is your land warfare classic commander. In Age 2, as we begin to explore the seas and open up those deep ocean tiles, we see naval commanders start to really have much more of a significant role. They are indeed the key player of military, of combat in this age. And finally, of course, in the modern age, we see not 1 but 2 different types of aerial commanders. These squadron commanders, sometimes aircraft carriers based at sea, and other times terrestrial, land-focused, sort of acting a little bit like mobile, or not so mobile, aerodromes, where you can house your aerial warfare units, your aeroplanes, and send them into the fight. Ultimately, the 3 different realms of combat, land, sea, and air, are met by these commander units. Perhaps the biggest shift here, though, is not the creation of these commander units, but rather what they have that other units simply do not. Commander units are distinct. They are the only units in Civ 7 capable of gaining experience and for unlocking promotions. So previously, where most units could go out and fight, gain promotions, gain extra abilities, strengths, perhaps specialities for certain types of terrain, no more. Unique units, of course, may and will possess those bonuses, but ranking up in experience, purely given to commanders, who will primarily gain this experience through battle, involving nearby troops, as well as their promotions, buffs, bonuses that they've picked up. And of course, these promotions, of which there are many, many different focus trees, with some insanely powerful effects, providing things like splash damage and all sorts, are unique to these commanders. Their effects will be felt by units within their command, but ultimately, it's the commander who will carry all of those perks from now on. And the story for these commanders gets even better. If you're disappointed about the experience loss for units, don't worry, for commanders don't just receive promotions and those extra abilities, pack, unpack units, etc. They are also ageless, meaning as you move through, while you may lose some things like adjacency bonuses from buildings from ages gone by, your commanders will retain their experience as well as their promotions earned in past ages, meaning that investing in them is very significant. As a quick tidbit, by the way, not mentioned in the dev diary, but from what I remember from playing the granted earlier build of Civ 7, commanders do come back. If you lose them in a fight, they will respawn given a certain amount of time. Again, don't quote me on that, it's not actually mentioned in the diary, but I feel like it's pretty relevant as we're discussing these all-powerful units. We've talked about their promotions, looked at them a little bit already, you could say. In the developer diary, they do mention the specific different categories available for an army commander. You can see that the 5 different categories of promotion focus on different strengths. Defensive bonuses, offensive bonuses. Operation-focused ones, like increasing the size of your army. Maneuver, how you move around. And finally, leadership bonuses for the commander themselves. And these guys have even more benefits than what we've already discussed. As insane as that might sound, the goodness just does not stop flowing for commanders. I've played with this briefly. It was very, very strong, and it removed one of their constantly mentioned design goals. It removed a lot of the micromanagement. So I agree with what they're saying here. What I'm talking about is the ability to streamline combat by reinforcing your fights, your military campaigns from a distance. Essentially, commanders have the ability to request reinforcements, automating the process of moving units from a city that might be miles and miles away to the front line. Thankfully, it happens mostly automatically. Train the unit, send it, and it will just sort of magically appear after a certain amount of time. In my experience, again, very early version of the game, not a lot of time, like literally a turn, and you can just magic those units to the front line. A wonderful effect to remove a lot of the micromanagement in the game, and again, another badge of commendation for these commanders who just seemingly don't stop getting stronger. We have to shift gears now a little bit to something that you'll need to be stronger if you want to overcome. Warfare, specifically siege warfare, tends to get more difficult, at least I believe from 5 to 6, and now it would seem from Civ 6 to Civ 7. Urban sprawl, specifically those new urban districts, those ones that you'll often see in the livestream footage with walls around them. At the very least, you can probably count on an urban district being one where buildings have been placed, it's been built up. It's not some farm on the hinterland of the city, but rather a tile that is actively being used for buildings. Well, in Civilization 7, you'll need to fortify all of those urban districts, and all urban districts can have walls constructed around them. Also, special military buildings as well as wonders can be constructed, of course, for fortification. The key here is that if you are attacking a city, your attacking force, in order to conquer that settlement, must control each of those tiles before you can take the city center. On the flip side, of course, if you're defending, then you can build a lot of walls and a lot of different tiles and really grind the opponent down. Make it difficult, really difficult to capture a city by having a whole load of urban districts and having all of them fortified, at least with walls. We know that obviously there'll be a bit of a trade-off here. Firaxis highlight it in the developer diary. Go in and build as many walls as you like, but do you have anything worth defending because you've spent all of your time building walls? Have you been able to expand? And of course, the other side of that is also true. Spend all of your time building up a juicy empire and no time defending it, and you'll suffer what I have suffered, a terrible fate many times of having my beautiful cities stolen from me. The final changes here come in terms of the battlefield visuals, which might not sound like a lot, but actually it has a really big impact on flanking in the game. Previously, in previous Civ games, you'd send a unit in, they'd fight, they'd then walk back to their hex. Firaxis talk about how this was once likened to a kind of hilarious Monty Python sketch, looking a bit comical. Walks forward, slaps another unit, walks back. And there could be some other improvements to be made here, not just to fix that comical looking fight scene, but also some real gameplay ones. And that's of course where flanking and front lines come in. What if combat played out, units continuously fought during a turn, not dealing extra damage, not like actually fighting over and over and over until one of them dies within a turn, but they maintain that front line as if they are still actively fighting. That's what Civilization 7 introduces, unless of course a unit is destroyed. And this directionality of attack matters, because now they're able to simulate flanking, 2 units attacking one another front on, now you have, within the rest of this turn, an active front line, and therefore flanking becomes not something that needs to be meticulously planned or microed, but something fairly obvious for civilization. They conclude with a Finding Balance series of 3 small paragraphs, which of course you can read on screen or linked down below as always with the rest of my sources. They talk about broadly how different Civ players have different preferences, different opinions. They're trying to strike a balance between what could make it fun for somebody who wants to just dabble in a few skirmishes as well as go on an all-out, in-depth conflict. And as we talked about at the start of the video, militarism is still important. It still functions toward those ultimate end goals or legacy paths, should you choose to follow them. That is a lot of military changes that we've discussed today, some big ones for Civilization 7. Thank you very much for joining me, not just today, but this year. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I'll see you all next year.